Okay, kind of got cut off on the last video from a time standpoint, so we're picking up where we left off. I'm just going to start over because now I have another 15 minutes to get through these two problems, which will be plenty. All right, so I'm going to use the quadratic formula to solve for these. Remember, they already said equal to 0. So I identify my A, my B, and my C. So my A is 1, my B is -2, and my C is -8. And I use the quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So now I go in and I put in my variables. -b would be -2 here. -2 plus or minus square root of b squared. Again, b is -2 minus 4 times 1 times -6 divided by 2 times 1. Now from here I like to simplify, and I'd like to write out my plus and my minus, unless you're using the decimals calculator, but you guys are using your handhelds, that's good. -2 becomes 2. And I'm going to do plus the square root, and I'm going to simplify the square root part. This is all going to be divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. So I'm going to type this part into my calculator to see what I get inside the square root. All right, so I pause the video and I type this in my calculator, and I get 28. So I'm going to do 2 plus the square root of 28 divided by 2, and I'm also going to do 2 minus the square root of 28 divided by 2. All right, so depending on how you're using your calculator, you either do the top part, hit enter, and then divide it by 2, or if your calculator can enter the fraction button so it looks like a fraction, you can type in 2 plus the square root of 28. That's what I'm doing right now. And then you put 2 on the denominator, and you get the root 7 plus 1, and I'm going to turn that to a decimal, and I get 3.65. So there's one of my solutions. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to put 2 minus the square root of 28, and then 2 on the denominator, or hit enter, divided by 2, and that is going to come out as a decimal -1.645, so I'm going to round that to a -1.65. Right, so again, same idea for this one. Now we have a different number for A though, so I have A, B, and C. It's not just 1, it is 4. My B is 3, my C is -5. I can type in my quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. I'm going back to blue. So -b would be 3 would go in here as my b, 3 is there, 4ac, so a is 4, c is -5, and my a is 4 here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify inside here. I'm also going to simplify this. Negative 3, or negative positive 3 is going to be -3 plus the square root. I'm going to type this into my calculator real quick. So I have parentheses 3 squared minus 4 parentheses 4 parentheses -5. And that gives me 89 over 2 times 4, which is 8. So there's one of my solutions. My other solutions is going to be -3 minus square root of 89 divided by 8. And now I'm going to type each of these into my calculator to get my answer. So I have my -3 plus square root of 89 divided by 8. And I hit that arrow button to get a decimal, and I get 0.8. It's 0.8042. It goes on, so I'm just going to call it 0.48. Now I'm going to type in the next one. I have my -3 minus the square root of 89, and that is then also divided by 2. And I list that as a decimal. It comes out as -6.2699, so I'm going to call that -6.22. So there's my 2 solutions for those problems.